Children are designed to move. Whether that be playing tag on the playground or just jumping around and having fun, physical activity is an important part of childhood development. However, with increased prevalence of sedentary activities such as video games, television, and many other technological gadgets, the amount of time that children are spending sitting is on the rise. Not only this, but physical education programs and recess in public schools are becoming less of a priority during the school day. This is in order to provide students with as much classroom time as possible, all in hopes of maximizing students' academic potential. Unfortunately, this attempt often comes at the cost of children's physical and mental well-being. To the schools, the primary goal is to improve children's academic capabilities, yet their attempts in this way may be in vain. Exercise has been observed to promote improvements in cognition and academic performance. So by cutting physical activity from the school day, the results may actually be a decrease in academic performance. It's important to reintegrate physical activity back into the school day, but if time really is the issue for administrators, rather than sectioning off a large block of time dedicated to physical activity, what if the exercise is performed in short bouts throughout the day? Dr. Rebecca Hassan, the director of the University of Michigan Childhood Disparities Research Lab, has been studying that exact question. From a pilot study, observing children participating in 2-minute bursts of activity 20 times per day at varying intensities, Dr. Hassan noted that children naturally move with short bursts of energy, and it has been seen that they perceive the short bouts as enjoyable. They have even been seen to stimulate more activity at a high intensity. In addition to the easy implementation and the psychological and metabolic benefits of short bouts of activity, childhood physical activity levels have been seen to be large predictors of physical activity participation in adulthood for many reasons. Two factors particularly that influence physical activity participation are influenced by short bouts of physical activity. The first important factor is coordination. As children grow, their cerebellum matures and grows along with the rest of their body. The cerebellum is located in the lower backside of the brain and is responsible for the development and maintenance of coordination during voluntary movements. Very simply, when a movement is planned and then attempted, sensory information from that movement is picked up and returned to the cerebellum. The cerebellum then compares the actual movement to the movement that was mentally planned. If the ideal and the actual do not line up, then an error signal is generated to correct the movement. An adapted movement is then performed in order to correct the error. Think about shooting a basketball for the first time. Initially, you may never even hit the rim, or if you do, your accuracy may not be the best. However, by the end of the day, you seem to have gotten better. You then return in 2 days, and though you're not shooting as accurately as you may have been at the end of your first session, your shots are much more accurate than the beginning of your first session. This is an example of the corrective responses of the cerebellum leading to motor learning. Similarly, during short bursts of exercises, children are experiencing a variety of jumping, kicking, pushing, and pulling movements that are stimulating the cerebellum intermittently throughout the day. This allows multiple opportunities throughout a 7-hour school day for that information to be integrated and for children to learn necessary fine and gross motor skills at a young age that will be transferable to daily life and useful for a lifetime. Overall, this will lead to significant improvements in that child's coordination. A second important factor as to why short bouts of physical activity may result in improved physical activity participation is enjoyment. Very often, children decide at a young age whether or not they enjoy being physically active, which often leads to a framework for a majority of their lives, potentially leading to unhealthy behaviors. Oftentimes, because exercise can be stereotyped to being long, continuous performances of physical activity, children who are less confident or less fit feel left out or unimpactful. This can result in a decrease of exercise confidence, triggering a decrease in enjoyment concurrently. However, on the contrary, short bouts of activity can be successfully completed by most children, regardless of their fitness level. By successfully completing each activity throughout the day at varying intensities, the reward centers of the brain will be activated, resulting in better mood. In the brain, A site known as the ventral tegmental area, or VTA, tells the person whether a stimulus such as exercise is aversive or rewarding. When exercise is successfully completed, it is often perceived as enjoyable. These enjoyable activities cause dopamine to be released from the presynaptic neuron and enter the synaptic cleft. Dopamine will bind to the receptors on the postsynaptic cell, which will result in further pleasurable feelings during exercise or even from the anticipation of exercise. Overall, this can perpetuate into a positive reward response that will encourage continued participation in exercise over time. However, if children are sedentary, they do not lay the groundwork for the coordination or positive reward responses to physical activity, and it will become much tougher to do so as they age, while other habits begin to set in. The overarching message here is that children should be physically active, period. But by performing activity in short time periods throughout the day, sustainable physical and psychological benefits may accompany the most important improvements in overall health.